Hello and welcome back, Squirrel Nation. Today we're covering some Platinum gameplay from our community member Sigs. One note I want to make before we dive in is I feel my new format kind of makes me lean more towards the mistakes instead of a nice balance between the good things and the bad things, just because condensing it down, I know players normally want to know the things that they're doing bad and that they could be doing better, so I tend to point those out more in this format. So for everybody out there, just know, please don't be afraid to submit gameplay. I don't mean to come off like I'm just totally insulting somebody's gameplay, and if I do, it's totally unintentional. I'm just trying to give you guys and girls what you need to improve the most. So anyways, with that, let's dive in. In this clip, we're going to talk about pathing. So when you don't know where the enemy is, you need to assume that they're in a place that you don't want them to be, aka a place where they're going to get a good ambush off on you. So if you notice here, we've been looking at the minimap this whole time. Nobody showed. We did just see that Grakk in the mid lane bush. And then Sigs comes down and bam, he gets ambushed by the Grakk, which he should have saw on the minimap if he was watching it while he pathed down the river. And then also you don't know where the Kilgraw is. You hopefully just saw that Grakk. You should kind of be very wary of an ambush coming through the river. The river is the absolute best pathing route, but it is also the most dangerous pathing route. So if your support is not giving you vision and your other teammates are not providing vision of the river, it's very dangerous for you to walk through it, especially as you move higher and higher in the ranks. One other thing I would like to comment on is if you are going to check your gold, I think that's great that Sigs is bringing up those tabs. I do not recommend to check those type of things when you are walking through high danger areas, right? So when you're coming solo down the river like Sig was, that is probably not a great time to open up the tab to check your build or gold levels or whatever you're checking. Okay, in this clip that we're about to watch, you are going to see an example of just poor positioning against a Grakk. So in the future Sigs, I will tell you when you see a Grakk, right now I'll let you guys guess what's going to happen before it even happens. He gets in this bush, the Grakk is sitting there, watched him go in the bush, he's going to get hooked to tower, surprise, surprise. I know for Sigs, you're probably not really thinking about it that much because against any other hero except Grakk, you're not going to be in trouble. But I like to, every game where I go into a Grakk game, I really try to keep the fact that there is a Grakk in the game with me because you do need to change your positioning. You do need to change your approach to lanes. So anyways, here we go. We're playing. He goes in a very predictable location. That's another thing. If you notice, the Grokk's throwing it here to this edge of the bush because as soon as he sees Sig go in there, he knows that he wants to come around for an ambush, right? So the Grakk does there have good prediction and gets the hook. Another thing you can do if you want to take this bush against a Grakk is you can actually stand more towards this edge. He's unlikely to hook it because most players are going to predict that you're coming through the bush instead of just get in and then stop moving. They're kind of throwing the hook into your walking route. So anyways, you could stay here, wait for the hook to be down, and then position in the bush. Or even more preferably to me, I would just kind of stay out of the hook range so that you can run away. But anyways, gets hooked. Does make the best of it. Sigs doesn't die. He has good reaction time. Does flash away. But at the same time, burning your flash and then also losing a decent amount of your health, that does start to really matter. So anyways, that's it for this clip. Okay, in this clip, we have another positioning versus the Grakk hook issue, right? Sigs is coming up. He's checking around. I like it so far. Everything. He grabs this bush. This bush is great to have. Grakk is running over here. Okay. Do you think that this is a great bush to stay in becomes a question, right? Grakk hooks you right now. You are in deep, deep trouble. Your team is very separated from you. You have both the enemy tanks and Yebnith and Grakk there to CC you under tower and just make your life really hard, right? You're kind of gambling at this point if the Grakk had the map awareness to not see you get in the bush, but he definitely would have seen you if he was watching the minimap. Okay, so then let's play on a little. This is even the worst part. Now, you absolutely know Grakk is staring at Aram, and he's even kind of, you can see, setting up the angle and the distance to get that max hook range and land it on Aram if she tries to take the bush, right? So, Sigs right now is actually in that path. Like, if this Aram keeps running forward, it's actually going to bait Grakk to hook Sigs out of the bush. So this is kind of a bad by Aram, this is kind of a bad by Sigs, but this is just something I want to point out. And what do you think is going to happen? Let's see. thankfully. In this case, the Grakk, for some reason, doesn't even throw a hook at either person. I have no idea. But anyways, this is a good example in games. Just because you don't get punished for bad play doesn't mean it wasn't bad, right? So in this case, I guess at this ELO, the Grakk maybe wasn't managing his cooldowns, wasn't paying attention, whatever. But if you want to climb up the ranks more and more, you need to start getting the habits of a good player. And positioning that doesn't get punished at low levels will increasingly get punished at higher and higher levels. So even when you rewatch your film, you're not always watching for your deaths, right? There's a lot of times that you could have died if the enemy would have capitalized, or if the enemy actually would have made a better play. So anyways, that's it. Okay, for this clip, this is not necessarily a bad, but it's a food for thought type of a thing. Ignis definitely wants his stun, so he needs to do his S1 into S2 combo into his ultimate in big team fights, right? If you notice right now, both teams are positioning around the mid lane, and a team fight could be coming, okay? So keeping that in mind, Siggs is going to clear a wave using his S1 and then his S2. The reason I don't think this is ideal, and it's just food for thought, is that your S2 has a longer cooldown, so then say after you clear the wave, the enemies do engage on you. As Ignis, you're not going to have your stun, which is something that's extremely important in your kit when a team fight breaks out. Another thing to consider when a team fight is about to happen, if you use S1 into S1, Ignis actually gains a shield, right? So when Siggs clears this wave that we're about to watch, I would have preferred if he would have used S1 once and then S1 twice. That would have, first, given him a shield going into the fight, and two, it would have left up his S2 in case a team fight did happen, he could get that AoE stun off. So here we see, right, they're coming, they're posturing, and you can kind of feel a team fight coming, right? So bam, S1, S2, and then bam, notice it's 9-second cooldown. So now if a fight did break out, and it didn't in this case, so it's okay, but if it did, it's just kind of a bad position. This clip is about a team fighting, so if you notice on the minimap, they see a team fight break out. I like that Siggs panned over the map. Let's pause real quick and talk about the cooldowns. But anyways, you saw Siggs pan his camera over, aka move his camera over to check the enemy health. I love it. That's great when he's coming to the fight. Coming into the fight, let's talk about Ignis's mechanics, okay? So if you S1 to S1, we know that gives you a shield. If you S1 to S2, it does an AoE stun on anybody who has your S1's buff on them, right? If you S1 into your ultimate, you do massive extra true damage, right? So you do a lot more damage. So coming into this fight, right, you know this is a team fight. Both the enemy tanks are on top of your Malik, one of your tanks, right? They're trying to secure the kill, okay? You need to think about what you want to do here, right? Do you think you can save Malik? Do you think you can burst down the tanks? In this is where you kind of over time just develop what you think tends to be right. Here, what I would do is I would go S1, and then I'd go for the stun, right? Try to make space so that my Malik can disengage and my Aram can get in there. But then the next thing I'm looking for after that is I'm looking to S1 into my ultimate, right? So I can get the debuff on them with my S1 and then get the ultimate. Something to be careful of is your S2, when it's raining down, it can re-trigger multiple times, right? So it's not one trigger per cast. It can actually consume your debuff multiple times. So if you S1, S2, and then S1 again too quickly, you'll actually double stun them, which in some cases is really good, but in some cases, when you're trying to get a mass team ult, you want that debuff to be on there so that your ultimate does that true damage, right? So that's something just to think about in this part. So he hits S2, great. He does ultimate, but he didn't throw out his S1 again, so that's just a non-true damage ultimate, right? And here, we are going to see another kind of think about your combos, right? I don't really want to talk about missing micro. That's something you can just practice. But here, same thing. He hits his ultimate. It doesn't quite secure the kill because, and this is something to anybody playing Ignis, you really need to focus on his mechanics and practice this in Hero Trial. But you need to hit his S1 before you ultimate. Because if you try the ultimate and then S1, it's not going to trigger the true damage from your ultimate, right? So you do have to cast your S1 onto them first and then cast your ultimate. I'm not honestly sure if it's a timing issue, but my theory is that it checks the debuff when you cast the ultimate, not when the ultimate triggers. But I'm not sure. It might be just the timing. You can't cast S1 and then your ultimate, and you can't cast your ultimate, then your S1, and have them overlap. So I'm not sure which one it is, but I can tell you for sure that you must cast S1 before you cast your ultimate if you want to get the true damage. The reason I say that is you notice how low health the Preda was. So if Sigs would have done S1 first, got the debuff, and then ultimated, Preda would have been dead. Most likely dead. So anyways, just food for thought. Quick point on purchasing. In this clip, you'll notice that Sig is changing from buying Boomstick next to Hectates. If you look at his build right now, this doesn't really make sense to me why you would go to Hectates, so I just want to bring this up. Hectates is great. If you notice its passive over here on the right is Warlock ability power plus 35%, okay? It does give you a lot of ability power in itself, but its passive is that plus 35% of your other existing ability power, right? So now if we look at Sig's build, there's barely any ability power, right? Phoenix Tier is a tier 1, I think a tier 2 item. His boots have no ability power. Barris Agony does have ability power, but it's not that much. It's more of a tank and slash debuff type of item, right? So by going for a Hectate so early in his build, he's actually sacrificing a lot of the power that it provides with its passive. I would have preferred him just to stick to his build and got the Boomstick next and then went into it, right? You want other items that are providing a lot of ability power before you go into Hectates. So anyways, that's the end of that point. Okay, this isn't a major point, but this is something that is definitely, I recommend every single player do, and it's sort by gold. So up here in the top right, if you notice my mouse cursor, you can see sort by gold. So if you click that, what it will do is it will put the enemies and your allies in order from highest to lowest gold. The reason that matters is because you don't have lots of time to just stare at this screen. You want to just kind of click it on and off consistently throughout the game to get information out of it. If you sort by gold, you're going to get better information quicker. For instance, if you notice, Sigs has the highest gold on his team with almost 3,900, right? But he's at the bottom of the list and it's all mixed up. So he can't really tell at just a quick glance who the most fed on his team is. Same thing by the enemies. It happens to be Kilgraw at the top, but Kilgraw could have easily been in the middle somewhere. He can't really tell that Telanus is the second highest without really looking individual by individual and then sorting it himself, right? And that sorting is taking your focus. It's putting your brain somewhere else that it doesn't need to be. So anyways, for everybody, sort these lists by gold. It will just make you gathering information much easier. What we're about to watch here is something that probably loses people the most games in solo queue and just tilts teammates the most. And that's sitting in a lane when there's nothing to do, okay? So if you notice, Sigs just cleared wave. He is going to come sit in this bush and stay here waiting for the next wave. If you notice, the Aram and Butterfly who are with him have already rotated top lane. And guess what? The enemies show up top lane also. Team fight breaks out that Sigs easily could have been it if he would have roamed with his support and his jungler instead of just sitting in that bush waiting for this next wave. You notice his teammate dies instantly. This kind of tilted surrender comes up, and we've all been here. When this starts to come, you already know you have at least one or maybe multiple teammates who have already just kind of called it quits in their mind. Part of solo queue, part of ranking is managing your team morale, right? When you see the surrender coming up, that is actually something you should review in your gameplay. You should ask yourself, is there something that I could have done differently to prevent my team from trying to surrender? A lot of the times, there is something that you did that could have forced it. In this case, what I wanted to highlight is Sigs forced this surrender because he failed to roam with his support and jungler. And he didn't even have a good reason to not roam. Like, he literally just took Dragonside Bush, right? I understand he was probably thinking, let me secure river so we could do dragon, but at the same time, if you're jungler and your support or roaming top, I mean, you're not going to solo dragon as a mid laner. But anyways, for all of you, main point, when you review your gameplay, look at when your team tries to surrender and ask yourself, is there something that I did to force my team's morale down and force them to just kind of give up on the game? And change those things. That will lead to a better win rate for you. Okay, that does it for today's video. I hope everybody enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe if you did. Also, it really helps me if you will share this video around so that other people can join the Squirrel Nation and just join our great community we have going on. But anyways, as always, I'll see you all tomorrow, and happy ranking.